I've been unemployed for the last 2 years and out of school for 3 years. I want to show you a unique way that I've leveraged my skills as a programmer and game designer to make money online. What's up guys, how's it going? In this video, I want to take a break from the regular auto chess content to talk a little bit about what I do during the day, which is building software businesses. My real name is William Kwan, and I have a degree in computer science from the University of Toronto. But I spent the last 2 years bouncing around from one startup project to the next. I'm not very successful, especially from a parent's perspective, but I do make enough money to pay off my food and my rent, so I figured maybe I can pass on the knowledge to some of you guys who might want to be making a little bit of extra cash from your coding skills. My most profitable website in the past year has been 7d2dserverhosting.com, so I want to dive into exactly why I came up with this idea, how I built it, and why it's making money. This is a subscription website where users pay me per month. So before I go any further, let me show you the Stripe dashboard. Today is April 3rd, 2019. Let's look at the net volume from sales at the bottom, which is the revenue minus Stripe's processing fees and any refunds. I launched this site at the end of September 2017, and I think it was the last day of that month actually. So you can see I started off with an excellent monthly income of $12.50. My income peaked January this year at about 3.1K, and last month, March, it made 2.7K. So what is this website and why is it making money? Well, let me give you some context. I've actually been making games for a long time, since my first year of university in 2013. And some of my games have been fairly successful. My most popular one was Frantic Architect, which had over 400,000 downloads back in 2016. But anyways, long story short, none of my games made any significant amount of money. So I was thinking, what are the ways that I can leverage my skills as a game designer and game programmer to work on something that has a more sustainable and more reliable business model? Then one random day, like mid-2017, I was reading an article on Indie Hackers, and basically there was this guy who was making $20,000 per month hosting game service for a game called Ark Survival Evolved. Now I've been playing video games my entire life, but I didn't understand this business model. I was never really into games like Minecraft or Ark, so I didn't really get why so many people would be paying a third-party company, not the game developer, but this third-party hosting company, this much money so that they could run their server. Well, I did a little bit of extra research, played some of these games myself, and then I realized that there are actually very well-developed communities of people who want a very customized experience for the game. And in order to do this, you usually do need to run your own server. The game server hosting industry is very competitive, but fortunately, most of these big companies use the same generic software called TC-admin. TC-admin is basically a web user interface that allows users to manage the different configuration settings on their server from a website. The problem is, a lot of games manage the configurations differently, so using the same generic software for everything is not a very good user experience. Basically what that guy on Indie Hackers did was build a custom website and backend just for Ark Survival Evolved. As a result, the user experience was much better, and it probably ran much more efficiently as well. I decided to do the same thing, but for a different game called 7 Days to Die. 7 Days to Die isn't as popular as Ark, but the playstyle and the target audience is quite similar. I chose the domain 7d2dserverhosting.com for the SEO purposes. If you search up juicy terms like 7 Days to Die server hosting or 7d2d server hosting, you'll see that my website shows up on the front page. Let me explain how my service works in the user's perspective, and then I'll get into a little bit about the tech behind it. 7 Days to Die is an open world survival zombie horror game, usually played by small groups of friends. Now, with your friends, you can explore a big new world, and you can do things to modify the world, such as chopping down trees or building up a home base. Somewhere on some servers somewhere, all these changes to the worlds and all the player states need to be saved. Now, you have several options for doing this. You can play on somebody else's server, so there are many publicly available servers that you can play on just by opening up the game. And the problem with this is that you're playing with random people across the world and you don't know how reliable, like how good performing the server is going to be. Your second option is to host the server yourself, and this can be a huge pain in the ass because if you're running the server on your own computer, well, you're going to need a very fast computer, very fast internet so that other people, maybe your friends are not living in the same city or something like that, right? Your friends want to have a fast experience too, and if they're directly connecting to your computer, it might not be very fast. And you have to leave your computer running on all the time, which you might not want to do. The third option is to use a third-party service provider who will give you the dedicated server space to run your server. And that's why people come to my website. I make it very clear that my software is custom built for 7 Days to Die, and I also offer a free 2-day trial so they can start playing right away without putting in their credit card. If they want to keep playing after the 2 days, they have to pay. So this is a very clear call to action. I think a common aspect with a lot of good business models is having a good call to action. For example, you're watching this video and you're thinking, I should encourage Juicy Chill to make more vlogs like this by hitting the like and subscribe. To make this all work, I run dedicated servers across North America and Europe, and I have automated scripts so that users can spin up servers automatically without having to SSH into the server or do any other technical stuff. Some of my friends ask me why I don't just use AWS, but I'm already paying about $700 a month for all my servers together, so that's quite a big part of my monthly revenue, and if I was using AWS, that would cost me maybe 3 times as much. For the website, I use a very basic mean stack with Node.js, MongoDB, and Express. I cut out Angular because I figured I didn't need a very complicated front end, and instead I just built it all using Bootstrap. The website communicates with my servers through a job queue, which is in Redis. Finally, the job queue executes scripts, which are all written in Bash or Python. I wasn't the most experienced web dev or DevOps guy when I built this, but I knew enough to cobble everything together. It still took me 2 months to get it launched, and then after that I had to work on it for another month just to get it working at a reasonably good state. The best thing about this website is that I didn't really have to do much marketing. Most of my users come from organic Google search, searching terms like I mentioned, 7 days to die server hosting, 70TD server hosting. When I launched the website, I did buy some Google ads, but I got onto the first page of the Google rankings pretty quickly, so eventually I thought it was redundant to be paying for the ads when I was already on the first page. I did pay a contractor on Fiverr to do some offsite SEO, but I'm not really sure that helped because my website is very specific and it actually delivers on what it promises. So it's possible that Google just boosted it up in the search rankings naturally. I also try my best to be an active member on the 7 Days to Die community forums. You might be wondering why I hit peak revenue over a year after I launched the site, and that's because around that time there were a bunch of major updates to the game, which renewed interest in people wanting to run their own servers. One interesting aspect about this business is that I do answer every single customer support email myself. I try my best to answer within 24 hours, but sometimes I might get 10 emails a day, and some of these bugs might be kind of hard to fix. Like a lot of the bugs with the servers have to do with the implementation of the actual game, and there's not really much I can do to help. So it takes some time for me to dig into this and figure out what I should suggest to the customer. There was this one time where a streamer was trying to stream off one of my servers, but there were a bunch of recent updates to the game, so nothing was working. I was scrambling to try to fix stuff, and meanwhile he was responding to all my emails on stream, so it was a very stressful time for me. Shout out to Papa Knox if you're somehow watching this video. During the past year, I've been thinking a lot about how I can possibly expand this business, maybe add some features that are not currently offered by other game server providers or expand to different games. And I've done a little bit of exploring, but I've always been too distracted by other projects. I have a really bad habit where I tend to neglect the kind of work that has been working well for me because I just get distracted by some shiny new project. At this point, I don't know if I'll ever put in the time to make this website into something bigger, but I figured at the very least I can talk about it and maybe inspire some people by telling them how I got to this point. I do think it's kind of interesting, and this is my most profitable venture out of all the other stuff I tried to do in the past year and a half. I think a big reason is the fact that I took a battle-tested business model and adapted it to a new niche. As a programmer, it's very intuitive to me that I shouldn't change too much code at once without testing stuff because then everything will just break. And I think the same thing applies to product design. If you try to innovate in too many different directions, you just end up with something that's really weird. Then nobody wants to use your product. If you're a student or you have a full-time job and you just want to make a little bit of extra income, I really think that there's no shame in copying someone else's business model and sort of putting your own flavor on it. Indie Hackers is actually a really good place to get ideas. You could even just copy my business and steal my customers. And if you do that, good luck. Anyways, that wraps it up for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.